Today I am telling you the story of the 45th and 47th U.S. President. Donald Trump. Donald Trump was born on June 14, 1946, in Queens, New York City. Donald John Trump was the fourth of 5 children of Fred C. Trump and Mary Ann McLeod Trump. His father, Fred, was a self-made real estate developer, a strict and disciplined man who built affordable housing for middle-class families in Brooklyn and Queens. His mother, Mary Ann, was a Scottish immigrant from the Isle of Lewis, whose journey to the U.S. reflected the American dream her son would later proclaim as his identity. Growing up in the affluent Jamaica Estates neighborhood, Donald lived in a 23-room Tudor-style mansion, far removed from the typical New York experience. From a young age, Donald exhibited a strong personality, competitive, bold, and often rebellious. His older siblings were more reserved and academic, but Donald had a flair for dominance and attention. This trait, while troublesome at times, was encouraged by his father, who saw leadership potential in his energetic son. Due to behavioral issues, Fred Trump enrolled Donald at the New York Military Academy at age 13. This decision would shape the boy's discipline, grooming him in an environment that combined leadership training with strict order. Trump excelled socially and athletically, becoming a star athlete and eventually rising to the rank of captain. He enjoyed the regimentation and structure but remained known for his rebellious edge and sharp tongue. After high school, Trump attended Fordham University for 2 years before transferring to the Wharton School of Finance at the University of Pennsylvania, one of the few colleges at the time to offer a major in real estate studies. There, he learned the theories and strategies of business, though he was never considered an exceptional academic student. His real education came from watching his father manage construction, housing developments, and rental properties. Upon graduation in 1968, Donald Trump joined his father's company, Elizabeth Trump & Son, and began learning the ropes of the real estate world in earnest. But he had a vision beyond his father's outer borough operations. Donald wanted Manhattan. While Fred Trump believed Manhattan real estate was too risky and filled with elite competitors, Donald saw it as the ultimate prize. His personality was made for the high stakes, bold moves, and public spectacle of Manhattan's skyline and power games. That ambition, that hunger for spotlight and scale, would soon set him apart not only from his family, but from nearly every real estate player of his time. Donald Trump arrived in Manhattan in 1971 with a simple vow to friends: "I'm going to be the king of New York." The promise sounded preposterous coming from a 25-year-old outer borough heir, but he had a secret weapon, an almost theatrical gift for reading personalities and a gambler's immunity to fear. Within 2 years he persuaded the Penn Central Railroad, then in bankruptcy, and a cash-strapped city hall to let him renovate the moribund Commodore Hotel beside Grand Central Terminal. Trump brokered a 40-year tax abatement, lined up financing from the Hyatt chain, and wrapped the old facade in mirrored glass so dazzling that critics joked it looked like a gold Cadillac on its back. When the Grand Hyatt opened in 1980, it was instantly profitable and made Donald, overnight, a Wall Street curiosity rather than Fred Trump's restless son. Flush with confidence, he plunged into an even bolder gamble: Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue. The mixed-use skyscraper required evicting Bonwit Teller, extracting air rights waivers, and cajoling city planners who doubted anyone would buy multi-million-dollar condos fronting a Gucci showroom. Yet on completion in 1983, the building's brass, granite, and indoor waterfall became a tourist attraction. More important, it cemented Trump's image as a dealmaker who could bend Manhattan to his will. The lobby, with its pink marble and perpetual hum of paparazzi, doubled as a stage on which the lead actor could step into a camera frame at any moment. Having conquered Midtown, Trump set his sights on Atlantic City, a declining Jersey Shore resort newly legalized for casinos. Between 1984 and 1990 he opened Trump Plaza, Trump Castle, and the gargantuan Taj Mahal, each financed with high-interest junk bonds and advertised by Trump's nightly rotations on talk shows. For a brief, electric moment his surname flashed brighter than hurrahs or Caesars. Yet the very leverage that amplified his expansion also magnified losses when a recession struck in 1990. Casino revenues plummeted, the airline he bought from Eastern went bust, and a $1 billion personal guarantee left him technically $900 million in the red. The crash became tabloid catnip, his 3-year battle with lenders, the very public divorce from Ivana. Trump's legend teetered. What rescued him was not a single blockbuster property but an ability to negotiate restructuring packages that let banks avoid foreclosure headlines while giving him time to rebound. By 1995 he had spun the Plaza Hotel to foreign buyers, taken Trump hotels and casino resorts public, and, most enduringly, discovered that licensing the name Trump to builders who financed projects themselves could mint money without risk. Through the late 1990s bull market he erected, re-flagged, or merely christened towers from Palm Beach to Toronto, revived the Wallman Rink in Central Park at his own expense, and with massive publicity, and landed on the inaugural Forbes 400 list. The ravages of the early 90s recession, once predicted to end his career, instead taught him the paradoxical lesson that calamity could be transformed into content, and content into brand equity. By the dawn of the new century, Trump's net worth remained volatile. Exact numbers were unknowable because so many contracts were private. But his cultural wealth, fame, or infamy had exploded to a scale that made even setbacks valuable. He was now a celebrity first, developer second, and the next act would push that truth to its limit. Trump the showman emerged in the 1990s as more than an eccentric playboy. He cameoed in Home Alone 2, tossed out ringside insults at World Wrestling Entertainment events, and purchased the Miss Universe organization to broadcast the pageant on primetime television. Each appearance harnessed the same persona: brash, hyper-confident, big league. Soon daytime and late-night hosts depended on him for ratings the way tabloids depended on him for scoops. He filled airtime as effortlessly as he filled marble atriums with brass signage. Parallel to this media arc was a quieter business pivot. The debt binge of the casino years had taught him that ownership could be a liability, but branding was indefinitely scalable. He penned Surviving at the Top as a mashup of war story and self-help manual, then repackaged earlier lessons in The Art of the Comeback. Bookstore shelves, magazine covers, even board game aisles carried his face. If a developer in Manila or a builder in Mumbai wanted the aura of Manhattan glamour, a licensing deal could slap Trump in 6-foot letters on their facade, for a fee and minimal exposure for the namesake. The apogee of this reinvention arrived in 2004 when producer Mark Burnett cast Trump as the central judge on a new NBC reality series, The Apprentice. The premise was part game show, part boardroom trial. Contestants hustled through marketing stunts while Trump, flanked by Ivanka or Don Jr., dismissed failures with the soon iconic catchphrase, "You're fired." 20 million viewers tuned in each week during Season 1. The Sunday night timeslot routinely beat sitcoms and dramas with triple the production budget. What mattered even more than ratings was social myth-making. Trump's penthouse office, his fleet of limos, the helicopter landing on a Hudson River pier, all reinforced him as an avatar of alpha capitalism. Viewers who had never visited New York felt they belonged to the city each time the show's synth-bass theme erupted and the skyline sparkled beneath the credits. Trump's real net worth, estimated between $2 billion and $4 billion, mattered less than the perceived net worth broadcast into American living rooms. Celebrity soon fused with politics. He flirted with a Reform Party presidential run in 2000, flirted again as a Law and Order independent in 2012, and became a go-to guest on Fox News, where he questioned Barack Obama's birthplace, controversy that alienated moderates but electrified many GOP base voters. By 2014, pollsters measuring Republican primary fields noticed that Trump's name recognition dwarfed that of governors and senators. It felt implausible to most analysts that a reality TV star could seriously pursue the White House. Trump saw the skepticism as fuel. To him, the last frontier of ratings was political theater. The cameras were still rolling, the audience was merely larger. On June 16, 2015, Trump rode a gold-plated escalator into the Trump Tower lobby and declared, "I'm running for president, and I'm going to make America great again." The speech scorched through cable news not only for its promise to build a wall on the southern border but for its unapologetically caustic rhetoric. Calling some Mexican immigrants rapists, vowing mass deportations, and attacking Washington elites as stupid. Pundits predicted a brief flame-out, yet within weeks he led national GOP polls. During the primaries, Trump pioneered a campaign strategy equal parts rally rock concert and social media guerrilla warfare. He carpet-bombed opponents on X, then Twitter. Branded Jeb Bush, low energy, Ted Cruz, lion, and Marco Rubio, little. The nicknames stuck. Cable networks, chasing clicks, broadcast rallies live, giving him billions in earned media. 12 rivals collapsed. By May 2016, Trump was the presumptive Republican nominee. The general election pitted him against Hillary Clinton, a former Secretary of State with a sprawling political machine. Trump's vulnerabilities seemed fatal. The release of the Access Hollywood tape, accusations of sexism and xenophobia, open rebellion by some Republican elders. Yet he weaponized outsider resentment, promised coal miners their jobs back. Staged raucous rallies in Rust Belt counties Democrats had long ignored, and, crucially, benefited from late October FBI commentary on Clinton's email server. On November 8, 2016, he won 304 electoral votes, flipping Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania by a combined 77,000 ballots despite losing the national popular vote by 2.8 million. Discipline wins battles, but instinct wins wars. The kid from Queens had outmaneuvered Bush dynasts, Clinton technocrats, Hollywood satire, and bipartisan donor networks. He arrived at the inauguration ready to govern as he had campaigned, through spectacle and friction. Trump's first term unfolded like a season of The Apprentice with geopolitical stakes. Week 1 brought an executive order banning entry from 7 majority Muslim nations. Airports erupted in protests. Courts issued injunctions, and Trump revised the order twice before it survived at the Supreme Court. By year's end, however, he scored a legislative victory with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, slashing corporate rates from 35% to 21%, which fueled a stock market boom and corporate buybacks. His most defining domestic wager was immigration. The White House declared a zero-tolerance policy, prosecuting all illegal border crossings and consequently separating thousands of children from parents, images that horrified moderates but thrilled nativist constituencies. Simultaneously, he reprogrammed Pentagon funds to erect hundreds of miles of steel bollard wall and forced Mexico into renegotiating NAFTA as USMCA. Foreign policy proved equally disruptive. Trump tore up the Obama-era Iran nuclear deal, met Kim Jong-un in Singapore and Hanoi, and launched a tariff war with Beijing, imposing duties on $370 billion in Chinese goods. He recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital and orchestrated the Abraham Accords between Israel and several Arab states. Yet also announced troop withdrawals that alarmed NATO allies. Critics painted the doctrine as erratic. Supporters heard an echo of Jacksonian assertiveness. The presidency's legal saga crescendoed with special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation into Russian election interference. Though the report found no criminal conspiracy, it documented 10 instances of potential obstruction. House Democrats, newly ascendant after the 2018 midterms, seized on a later episode. Trump's phone call pressuring Ukraine's president to investigate Joe Biden. The House impeached him in December 2019. The Senate acquitted on party lines in February 2020. The spectacle only deepened partisan trench lines. Then came COVID-19. Trump's instinctual skepticism of bureaucracy collided with a once-in-a-century pandemic. He restricted travel from China early, promoted Operation Warp Speed, but also downplayed case numbers, mocked masks, and clashed with his own scientists on live television. By election day, the U.S. had recorded more than 230,000 deaths. Unemployment had spiked to 14% before partial recovery. Racial justice protests roiled cities following George Floyd's murder. On November 3, 2020, voters delivered a split verdict. Joe Biden captured 306 electoral votes while Trump increased his own popular vote haul by 11 million. Trump alleged widespread fraud, filed 60 lawsuits, losing all but one minor case, and exhorted supporters to fight like hell at a January 6 rally. Within hours, rioters breached the U.S. Capitol seeking to halt certification. 5 people died, and images of Confederate flags in the rotunda ricocheted worldwide. The House impeached Trump a second time for incitement of insurrection. He left office on January 20, 2021, boycotting Biden's ceremony and boarding Air Force One to Mar-a-Lago. Post-presidency, he transformed into a Republican kingmaker, endorsing midterm candidates and raising hundreds of millions via Save America PAC. Meanwhile, prosecutors circled. A Manhattan District Attorney probe led to 34 felony convictions in May 2024 for falsifying business records tied to hush money payments. The civil fraud trial over inflating property values produced a $354 million disgorgement order in early 2024. Trump became the first former president branded a felon, yet fundraising soared. Fate handed him an opening when President Biden declined to seek re-election, clearing the Democratic field for Vice President Kamala Harris. Trump steamrolled GOP primaries and selected Senator J.D. Vance as running mate. The 2024 general election was chaotic. 2 assassination attempts traced to Iranian operatives forced him into decoy planes and armored convoys. Yet he barnstormed the Rust Belt and Southwest, promising tariffs to protect industry and invoking memories of 2019 prosperity. Voters wearied by inflation and border crises swung decisively on November 5, 2024. Trump reclaimed the presidency with 312 electoral votes. His legal baggage persisted. Lawyers appealed the hush money verdict, arguing presidential immunity before a federal panel in Manhattan even as he plotted inaugural balls. The irony was Shakespearean. A candidate under indictment convincing swing voters he alone understood persecution. Polls showed that the felony label mattered less to non-college voters than memories of $2 gas. Suburban misgivings were offset by Latino and Black male gains, confirmed in Pew data released June 2025. Trump's second inauguration on January 20, 2025 flipped the script of American political history. Never had a president who lost re-election rebounded 4 years later to reclaim the Oval Office. The ceremony was smaller than 2017. ringed by unprecedented layers of Secret Service sharpshooters and National Guard units mindful of both foreign plots and domestic militias. In his address he declared, "The movement has returned, stronger, wiser, and ready to finish what we started." Day 1 he signed an executive order establishing an External Revenue Service to collect a universal 10% tariff on all imports, calling it, "the greatest tax cut in history," paid for by foreigners. Economists warned of price spikes, but MAGA loyalists framed it as economic nationalism 2.0. By February he escalated, 25% duties on Mexico and Canada, plus an additional 10% on China. Provoking immediate retaliation that rattled stock markets. Trump shrugged on X, writing, "Short-term pain, long-term gain." Immigration crackdowns intensified. The administration deployed Army engineers to Arizona and Texas to extend the wall with drone surveillance towers, declared fentanyl trafficking a national insurgency, and controversially, ordered active-duty troops to assist ICE in interior enforcement, actions that triggered lawsuits from civil liberties groups and applause from Republican governors. Perhaps the most headline-grabbing exercise of power, however, was Trump's aggressive use of the pardon pen. By late June he had granted more than 1,600 pardons or commutations, eclipsing Barack Obama's 8-year tally in 6 months. Beneficiaries ranged from January 6 defendants to former aides convicted in the Mueller probe. Critics howled. Supporters said the gesture proved loyalty. Amid governing, Trump fought in courtrooms. A federal appellate decision on July 1 will decide whether the hush money conviction remains or vanishes under a novel theory that a sitting president cannot be tried for pre-presidency paperwork crimes. Civil judgments in New York remained on appeal, and Fulton County, Georgia prosecutors still eyed a 2026 trial date over alleged 2020 election interference. Legal jeopardy had become a permanent backdrop, less a threat than an anti-hero storyline keeping supporters energized. Legislatively, Trump's fortunes hinged on slim House and Senate GOP majorities. A promised, America First Infrastructure Act, funneling tariff revenue into manufacturing hubs, squeaked through the House but stalled in the Senate under filibuster. Foreignly, he stunned NATO by announcing a 2026 deadline for allies to hit 3% GDP defense spending or face a security reassessment. European capitals, chastened by the Ukraine war's lingering costs, scrambled for compliance. Beijing, meanwhile, retaliated with rare earth export curbs, setting the stage for a tech supply showdown in 2026. Domestic polarization remained white-hot. College campuses protested a federal push to mandate patriotic civics curricula. Conservative legislatures adopted model bills restricting day offices. Court nominations turned into culture war proxy battles. Through it all, Trump's communication strategy never deviated. Relentless social media barrages, chopper talks, on the South Lawn, and primetime rallies in contested House districts where he bellowed that 2024 was only half-time. What, then, is Donald Trump's legacy midway through 2025? To admirers he is the embodiment of disruption, a builder who smashed bipartisan orthodoxies, re-centered trade on the working class, and proved that elites can be beaten with instinct and iron will. To detractors he is a cautionary tale of demagoguery, a felon president normalizing contempt for institutions. But even critics acknowledge an undeniable feat. The boy who craved Manhattan's skyline captured the planetary spotlight not once but twice, bending an entire political era around his chaotic gravitational pull. However the next 3.5 years unfold, whether tariff gambles ignite a manufacturing renaissance or plunge markets, whether legal walls collapse or corral him, whether the GOP becomes Trumpism or outgrows it, The experiment of Donald John Trump has already rewritten the boundaries of possibility. And in rewriting them, he has stamped his surname on the most valuable real estate of all, the American imagination. The end. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share and subscribe.